Welcome to the deep dive. So you've probably heard the name Bitcoin thrown around, right? Maybe see some headlines.
Uh-huh.
But you're here because you want to, really get what it is and why it's actually such a big deal.
Exactly.
Think of this as your fast track to the core stuff.
Yeah, we've dug into the essentials, drawing from Bitcoin 101, what is it and why does it matter? From Crypto Talks.
Okay.
And our mission today is really just to boil down those key ideas, clear up maybe some confusing bits, and give you a solid feel for Bitcoin's place in the world now.
All right, let's unpack it then. Bitcoin. Fundamentally, it's a digital currency, so not like the bills in your pocket.
Right.
It only exists online, electronically. Created back in, 2009 by this mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto figure.
Well, it's the origin story, yeah. And what's really striking from the get-go is its decentralized nature. Meaning, well, unlike, say, dollars or euros, there's no central bank controlling it, no government oversight in the same way. Instead, it operates on this global network of computers, completely distributed.
Right. And the technology behind that is the blockchain.
Exactly. You can picture it like a giant shared digital ledger.
Okay.
Every single Bitcoin transaction gets recorded there. And once it's in, it's basically permanent, can't be altered.
So that's where the security comes from.
Precisely. The blockchain is key. It provides that security and also transparency because the ledger is public.
So you don't need to trust a bank or some intermediary.
You don't. The trust is kind of built into the system itself, into the code and the network. That's why people call it trustless.
Okay, interesting. So walk me through it. Let's say I want to send some Bitcoin to, I don't know, a friend. How did that play out?
So when you make that transaction, you send Bitcoin, the details get broadcast out to that whole network we mentioned.
Okay.
Then there's this special group on the network called miners.
Miners, right? Heard of them.
They use these really powerful computers, and their job is to solve these complex math problems, cryptographic puzzles, technically.
Okay, now this sounds complicated. Why the math problems? What are they actually doing?
It's the verification step. Solving the puzzle is how the network confirms your transaction is legit.
Legit meaning?
Meaning you actually have the Bitcoin you're trying to send and that nobody's tried to mess with the transaction details.
Oh.
The first miner who cracked that puzzle gets to sort of bundle up a bunch of recent verified transactions into what's called a block.
A block.
And then that new block gets added to the end of the existing blockchain, like adding a new page to that ledger book.
Got it. And these miners, they're using a lot of computing power, energy. What's in it for them?
Good question. They get rewarded for their effort.
How?
They receive a certain amount of brand new Bitcoin. That's actually how new Bitcoin comes into existence.
Oh, interesting.
It's the incentive that keeps people running those computers and securing the network, keeps the whole thing going.
Now, something else you always hear is this limit, the 21 million coin limit. Why is that a big deal?
That's a really fundamental part of Bitcoin's design. It's hard-coded.
Unlike regular money where governments can just print more.
Exactly. Central banks can increase the money supply. With Bitcoin, there's a fixed ultimate limit, 21 million, that's it.
So, scarcity.
Precisely. It introduces digital scarcity. People often compare it to gold, a limited resource.
Okay, stepping back from the technical side a bit, why should, the average person care about this? What's the real impact?
Well, thinking bigger picture, there are a few key reasons. First, financial freedom.
Okay.
Think about countries maybe with unstable banks or really high inflation. Bitcoin can offer people a way to hold value outside of those traditional systems.
Like a way to protect their savings if the local currency is collapsing.
Potentially, yeah. It offers a degree of financial self-sovereignty, control over your own assets that isn't dependent on those institutions.
That makes sense, especially in unstable situations. What else?
Second, it's global and pretty much borderless. Sending money internationally the old way. It can be slow, expensive.
Oh yeah, the fees.
Right. Fees, exchange rates, delays. With Bitcoin, you can send value almost anywhere in the world, usually faster and cheaper, directly person to person.
So no banks in the middle.
Generally, no. Just need basically a smartphone and internet. Think about people sending money home to family overseas remittances. Bitcoin could make that much more efficient.
Wow. Yeah. That could really change things for a lot of people. Democratize finance, almost.
That's one of the big arguments for it, absolutely. And third, there's this idea of direct ownership.
What do you mean?
When you hold Bitcoin properly with your own private keys, you control it directly.
So no bank can freeze your account?
Nope. No government can just block your transaction easily. It puts the power and the responsibility, squarely with the individual.
It's trusting the code, not the institution.
Yeah.
It's quite a shift.
It is. It's a different way of thinking about trust and control in finance. It's pretty mind-bending when you first get into it.
And of course, there's the investment angle. You hear about Bitcoin as digital gold, a store value.
Yeah, that's definitely a major narrative. The limited supply feeds into that, the idea that because it's scarce, its value might increase over time, maybe even act as a hedge against inflation in regular currencies.
Wow.
But, and this is a big but, it's also known for being incredibly volatile. The price can swing wildly.
Right.
So anyone thinking about it as an investment really, really needs to do their research and understand the risks involved. It's not a guaranteed path to riches.
Okay, good point. Let's tackle some common misunderstandings then. I often hear people say Bitcoin's just fake money. How do you respond to that?
Well, it's understandable because it isn't physical, right? You can't hold it.
Yeah.
But while it's digital, it has real-world value. People trade it for dollars, euros, yen every day on exchanges. More and more businesses are starting to accept it.
So it functions as money, even if it's just code.
It represents a transfer of economic value. So digital.
Yes.
Sake, no.
Another one, the idea you have to buy a whole Bitcoin, which costs, well, a lot sometimes. Makes it seem like it's only for the wealthy.
Yeah, that's a common misconception. But Bitcoin is actually highly divisible.
How divisible?
Down to 100 millionth of a single Bitcoin. That smallest unit is called a Satoshi.
Wow. Okay.
So you can buy tiny fractions. You could invest, $5, $10 worth if you wanted to. It's accessible.
Good to know. Okay. And the elephant in the room, the risks. What are the main dangers people should be aware of?
We mentioned the price volatility. That's probably the biggest one for most people. Huge swings up and down.
Wow.
Then, like any new financial space, unfortunately, there are scams. People trying to trick you out of your crypto. You need to be careful.
And security. Hacking.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity is crucial. If you don't secure your Bitcoin properly, strong passwords, secure storage like hardware wallets, it could potentially be stolen by hackers.
So education is key.
Massively important. Understanding how to keep your holdings safe is paramount.
So if we were to boil all this down, what's the single most important takeaway for someone listening right now?
I'd say the core idea is that Bitcoin is more than just, internet money. It represents a potentially fundamental change in how we think about value, about transactions, about control.
A new kind of financial system almost.
It's an evolving technology offering this decentralized, transparent, global alternative. That's the big picture.
And who needs to pay attention? Just tech people, investors.
Oh, much broader than that, I think. Sure, tech enthusiasts and investors are interested, but think about travelers using it across borders.
Right.
Or people in those unstable economies we talked about. Even just anyone curious about where technology and finance might be heading.
So learning about it now is kind of like getting ahead of the curve.
Arguably, yes. Understanding it now helps you make sense of how the financial world might shift in the future.
This has been super helpful, really breaking down the basics. But it definitely feels like there's more under the hood, right? We're just scratching the surface.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much more. We could do a whole session just on wallets, how to store Bitcoin safely.
Or mining. Get deeper into how that works.
Exactly. Or different investment strategies and viewpoints. Lots of avenues. If you, the listener, have specific questions or areas you're curious about, definitely let us know.
Yeah, send in those questions. What do you want us to unpack next?
We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so let's wrap up. The key thing to remember is that Bitcoin isn't just a buzzword. It's a real technology, an innovation that has the potential, at least, to seriously change things financially.
Keep asking questions.
Keep exploring. Stay curious. The future of money is definitely an interesting space